Hello and welcome to the last topic in the third unit of National 5 Chemistry. Before I start this topic, I would expect you to have knowledge of electrochemical series and the way it works. Now here you can see summary of the reactivity of metals, and on the left hand side we have name of some metals, and the arrow indicates that the topmost potassium is the most reactive metal and platinum is the least reactive metal. You have to remember that the more reactive metal can displace the less reactive metal from its solution. Electrochemical cells. Electrochemical cells are the cells that convert chemical energy into electrical energy, producing electricity. A simple cell can be made by placing two metal rods in an electrolyte. So here you can see that we have two different metal rods. One is zinc and the other one is copper rod, which are dipped in copper sulfate solution. So the copper sulfate solution here is the electrolyte. Electrolyte is an ionic solution which helps to complete the electrical circuit in the solution. Now we know that metals, they all have tendency to lose electrons, and they lose these electrons with a certain force. This force is known as voltage and it is measured in volts. So at the top here you can see we have a voltmeter, and the reading that you can see here is the voltage. So this is the difference in the force of losing electrons between these two metals. So when two different metals are connected, the more reactive metal will lose electron with a greater force as compared to the less reactive metal. As a result, the more reactive metal will lose electron and push electrons towards the less reactive metal. This is also called the Bully rule. So in this cell, if we replace zinc with magnesium and let the other rod remain as copper and the solution is copper sulfate, the voltage that we can see here would not be the same as the previous value, but it will be something with greater than 1.80, which has been shown here. Now let's try and predict the flow of electron in these given cells. Always remember that electrons flow from metal higher in the metal activity series to the metal lower in the metal activity series. So in the first magnesium iron cell, electrons flow from magnesium to iron. In a sodium gold cell, electrons flow from sodium to gold. A copper silver cell, electrons will flow from copper to silver. A zinc lead cell, so electrons will flow from zinc to lead. Reaction in electrochemical cells is a redox reaction, which means that both reduction and oxidation processes occur simultaneously. Here you can see there are three examples of different kinds of cells. So what I expect you to is write the ion electron equation and label them reduction or oxidation for the following batteries. So batteries are combination of same kind of cells. Now in the aluminium zinc cell, we know that aluminium is higher in the metal activity series, so aluminium will have a tendency to get oxidized. So aluminium will change into aluminium ion and lose 3 electrons, so it will get oxidized. Zinc will accept 2 electrons and change into zinc metal, so this would get reduced. In copper gold cell, copper lies higher in the metal activity series, so it will have tendency to change into cuprous ion and lose one electron. Gold ion will have tendency to gain the electron and change into gold metal. So again, copper undergoes oxidation, gold undergoes reduction. In tin silver, tin is higher in the metal activity series as compared to silver, so it will change into tin ion and lose electrons. Silver will gain one electron, changing into silver metal. So oxidation is taking place on the tin side and reduction occurs on the silver end. Now we'll talk about cells made from two half cells in which both the half cells are metals. So rather than having both the metal rods in a single electrolyte, we can have two separate solutions and each metal is dipped in the solution of its own salt. So if we have here zinc, zinc is present in zinc sulfate solution. We have copper rod which is dipped in copper sulfate solution. In the center you can see that this is called ion bridge or the salt bridge, and generally it consists of an electrolyte salt or an ionic salt like potassium sulfate in this case. This ion bridge does not take part in the cell reaction, but it always helps to complete the electric circuit in this whole setup of the electrolyte. So reaction in electrochemical cells, as I've told you before, is a redox reaction. Each metal is dipped in its own solution, and the reaction that will take place here would be that zinc, being higher in the metal activity series, will have a tendency to change into zinc ion and lose two electrons. Copper sulfate will dissociate, giving copper ions and sulfate ion. Copper ion will gain electron and change into copper metal. So the overall redox reaction in this case would be that zinc, it displaces copper from its copper sulfate solution and changes it into copper metal and zinc ion. So this is the complete redox equation, and this kind of reaction is also called displacement reaction, because in this reaction zinc, being more reactive, is displacing copper from its solution, copper sulfate. Next we have cells with only one metal. Two metals are not always required to make a cell. As long as you have one reactive metal to give away electrons and another substance to accept the electrons, then you can build a cell. Some non-metallic substances are also found in electrochemical series, and the same rule applies there. That is, the metal which gives away electron has to be higher in the electrochemical series than the other non-metallic substance which accepts these electrons. In this example, we have nickel rod which is dipped in nickel sulfate solution, and on the other end we have iodine solution and carbon rod. The ion bridge has potassium sulfate solution in it. So electrochemical cell with nickel in nickel sulfate and carbon in iodine solution. In this reaction, nickel gives away electrons. So nickel would give away electron, changing into nickel ion, and iodine accepts these electrons and changes into iodine ions. So the overall equation for this would be next we have rechargeable batteries and fuel cells. In this topic, you just need to remember that what is the technology used in rechargeable batteries and fuel cells. So both are based on the technologies which use redox reactions, which is reduction and oxidation going on simultaneously. Rechargeable batteries are those which can be recharged continuously. So in this, chemical energy gets converted into electrical energy, and then again electrical energy gets converted into chemical energy. Example of fuel cell is hydrogen oxygen cell. So in a fuel cell, at the positive electrode, hydrogen will lose two electrons forming hydrogen ions, and at the negative electrode, these hydrogen ions combine with oxygen forming water molecule. Example for rechargeable batteries are lead acid batteries. Now you have an exercise in which I expect you to write a complete redox reaction taking place in a zinc copper cell. So you can pause the video here, complete the reaction, and then come back and check your answer. Now we know that zinc, it is above in the metal activity series and copper is in the lower end. So zinc undergoes oxidation. So zinc would change into zinc ion, losing two electrons. Reduction takes place at the copper end, where copper ions will accept electrons, changing into copper metal. So the redox reaction would be zinc plus copper ions would give you zinc ion plus copper. Next is sodium iodine cell, in which one is metal and another is non-metal. So sodium will undergo oxidation. And iodine will accept so in this case, to balance, you can multiply it with 2, and here you have 2Na plus I2 would give you 2NaI. So this will be the complete redox reaction. So this is the end of my lesson. Hope you enjoyed and hope to see you again. Bye.